Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Bridging the Gap, If These Walls Could Talk. Welcome back, everybody. Bryan, so really interested to hear about what you guys do, man. I think when I hear elite media installation, there's a couple things that come to mind, knowing that you guys are in smart home and some of the home audio stuff that you do. I think first and foremost, like, tell us the story of your business. How did you start your business? Where did it come from? What was the idea that said, hey, I'm going to go out and do this?
It's a unique story. So it's really the only job I've ever had. So when I was in college, I got a part-time job at Best Buy, just working in the TV section. And when I graduated college, I didn't pursue going to grad school or doing really anything post undergrad as diligently as I should have. So Best Buy had a installer position open. I was like, all right, it's full time. I'll take it, right? So I go and I start doing installations for Best Buy, is where I started to learn the craft and the trade and how to manage your life on the field and do those things. And I really enjoyed it. So I went off and I tried to get other jobs. I did a little stint in medical sales there for a couple years. And throughout that time, when I was doing installs for Best Buy, people were like, hey, will you do this on the side for me? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it on the side for you, right? Well, eventually you get this like clientele. And then when I stopped working for Best Buy, I still had people I was doing side work for. And then it got large enough that I started to be concerned about liability and things like that. So I created the entity in 2009. I officially really started doing installs in 2005. So it's almost 20 years that I've been doing installations.
Okay.
So I started the entity 2009, and then I tried to do both for a little bit. I tried to do like medical sales during the day and then do installs on the weekend, and they both just became overwhelming. I finally figured out that I was only going to get out of either of them what I put into it, which was part of my time. Right. So I finally quit one of them, and so I started doing the installations through Elite Media full time. My brother came on board. And he joined me full time, and my dad eventually came on full time, and then we just kept hiring people, and here we are. So it was never the plan. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go to a trade school and I'm gonna hang TVs for a living. It just I tell people I kind of fell into it. Like, I just was relatively handy growing up. My dad worked in construction, and then I liked technology, and I was enjoying it, so I kept doing it, and then people kept wanting to give me money, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I can get paid to do something I enjoy, and it just evolved into a business. So here we are.
I'm super into technology, right? I had 27 years in a technology company that I was at. So, Internet of Things was always something that was really, blew my mind. Like, I loved that space because it was unique. It was almost like a science project. If you were talking to somebody about remote monitoring or, how do they do this and temperature in a refrigerator or things like that. So I know that you guys are involved in some of those IoT type solutions. What can you tell us about the home automation side and what do you guys do there?
It's evolving. It's growing. When I first started, home automation and smart home wasn't a thing. It was just straight audio video. And then when these things decided to enter our lives, society changed a little bit, and instant gratification kind of became more prevalent in society. So that's when the smart home thing started to take off. And so we evolved with the market because they kind of tied together in some ways. So there's different levels of smart home. There's kind of the DIY side of it that you can just go to Home Depot or Best Buy or whatever, and you can buy a Ring doorbell and a Nest thermostat, and you can operate and or control certain things from your phone, right? And that's fine, right? But what we do is we create a smart home. I tell people there's a difference between a home that has smart things and a smart home, right? Because you can go buy a bunch of smart things and you can hook them up, and now your home has smart things. But a smart home is when you can get those things to work together, right? If I ring the doorbell, the lights turn on, or at a certain time of the day, I can program or schedule certain things to happen that you can't do when you just have the isolated apps all through your phone. The smart home systems that we put in, it's basically just like a computer that talks to all the other smart things, and
Right.
then we program the computer to say, all right, if somebody rings the Ring doorbell, then open the Yale lock.
If
right?
this, do that,
If
right?
this,
Yep.
do that. But those two things as independent devices could never talk to each other
Okay.
until you bring in someone from our industry, or an integrator, as we call ourselves.
Okay.
'Cause we integrate technology together. So there's a big difference between a smart home and things with home with smart things, and it's
interesting to hear.
growing, it's changing. The next level of it is probably voice command.
Okay.
The Amazons and the Google Homes, they're trying, but it is an unperfected technology at this point. There's a company out there that's doing pretty well with it, but I think it's still a long ways away
Okay.
until we can just talk in the house and things happen,
Like a normal conversation,
like
right?
in normal
and stuff just
conversation, without
happens.
having like trigger something. But that day's coming, and it's probably the next step.
Well, that's kind of scary if you might be having a conversation, all of a sudden you say something about the lights and all the lights come on and the music pops on. You might have to say, like, keep
Yeah.
your voice down a little bit, right? If you
With
bring in the voice
AI,
part.
it's gonna
but-
know. Like, I don't know how it's gonna know, whether it's an inflection in the voice, or it's just gonna know that you actually are asking to have the lights turned on and not just talking about lights being turned on.
Sure.
So I don't know how it's gonna get there or when it's gonna get there, but my vision is that's where it'll go.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, if it's anything like me, I think about something. I don't say it. I think it in my head, and it shows up in my social media feed. So
Yeah, right.
maybe that'll start to happen, right?
That is
Right?
it's already indirectly happening. Yes.
So, Bryan, you obviously you guys do things with builders from the beginning, right? So if someone's building and they want to come in and make their home a smart home, you guys do that. If someone moves into a home and it's not a smart home, can you change it into a smart home?
Yes.
I mean, it's obviously a lot more involved because you're taking out things that are already there, or
Yeah.
how complicated is that process for someone if they buy a home and it's not a smart home now and they want to try to make it a smart home?
It's not complicated, it's limited. So if you build the house, as with any other type of part of the house, your options are unlimited. Maybe you might have to get a device that is not ideal, right? So let's take a video doorbell, for instance, right? If you have a completed home and you just mount one on the outside of the house, you either have to use a solar panel or batteries and charge it, and then it's working off Wi-Fi. Does it do the same thing as if pre-construction you can run a wire to it and plug it in, so now it's not on the Wi-Fi and it's not using a battery? So you can kind of still accomplish the same thing. You just might be limited in devices or quality of device. But you still can do smart lighting and the thermostats, and then I can still put in the host or the primary system. It's called Savant. So if I reference Savant, that's what we're talking about. So Savant is a smart home automation platform. So I can still put in a Savant system in a post-construction environment. We just might be a little more limited on its full capabilities rather than something that is designed pre-construction.
Got it. So so let's just say someone moves in and they say, well, I want my garage door opener to be an app on my phone, and I want to be able to open it remote, or I want to adjust I have three things. I want to open my garage door, I want to be able to adjust my thermostat, and I want to be able to open the front door.
Easy.
That's something you can do. You can implement with just those three things if that's what's important. Or turn my lights on at 8 o'clock at night.
Yep. All of that stuff is possible in any scenario, pre or post construction.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to know. That's
Yeah.
exciting. Like, know that you can implement that afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've got a light that's in my kid's bathroom, and it's down the hallway from our bedroom, and I can't tell you how many times it'll just start to blink. It's like one of those ones that's in the app on their phone. And so I said to him, okay, well, what's the login? and they're like, I don't know. I don't remember setting it up. I'm like, okay, well, what's your email address? Let's start there. Maybe we can forget the password and,
Mhm.
try to get to it.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's been months over months that it will randomly do stuff. And I'm
Mhm.
like, it's driving me bonkers. So like in your situation, like using that through an app, like that's one thing that's a smart thing that's not really smart in my mind right now. But like what all are the products that you would be able to integrate? Like what's that integration look like? And then what can be done? Like what's the big picture
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah. Um, in terms of smart things, it's your basics. So it's your doorbells, it's your door locks, it's your garage door opening capabilities. Um, Lighting for sure is probably our company's favorite thing to do. In there's a line in the sand of smart lighting and smart lighting control. So like it doesn't change the fixtures. So it's more about how do I control the light fixture and
Okay.
not that the fixture is smart, because you can go out and buy some smart bulbs and
Right.
things, but like that's not the right way to do it. So you end up changing the control, the switches and things like that. So all of that can be done post construction. Um, Audio video, you can do it. It's tough to call audio video systems just watching TV or listening to music smart, because they're kind of their own world. They become part of the home automation platform when you start tying them into the other devices.
Yeah.
So the beauty of home automation is that you take your like routines that you do on a regular basis, because we all have them, and generally they're in the morning and then they're at night.
Right.
You do the same thing. You wake up, you do the same thing. Go
Yeah.
to bed, you do the same thing, right? So the great thing about home automation is you can simplify those routines and or just have them created automatically. So let's say, for instance, you wake up at 6:30 in the morning every day, and you get up and you go into the bathroom and you brush your teeth, and then you go downstairs and you make coffee, right? And you always turn the same lights on,
Right.
and you always put the same radio station on, or you turn the TV on to the same station because you want to watch the morning news or something, right? So all that stuff, all that technology that you touched, that can just happen, right? So you can program all of those things to occur at 6:30. At 6:30 the bathroom light comes on. At 6:45 the light to the kitchen comes on. At 7 o'clock the certain lights turn on, the TV turns on, and the music turns on. Like, so all that stuff, you can just program it to happen, or you can put control points in, like on light switches, where if you're leaving the bathroom and you press a certain button, then it starts the downstairs, right?
Triggers.
Triggers it, turns off the bathroom or in the bedroom, and then turns on the living room and the music and the lights, right? So it just simplifies your life, because you took a routine that you have to go around and create on a regular basis, that it just does it for you, right? And then when you go to work, you hit goodbye or off, right? Turns TV off, turns the music off, shuts the lights off, locks the back door, right? Instead of you having to run around and check like, did I lock the basement door? But when you hit that button on your on the wall or on your phone that says goodbye, right? It's locked,
Yeah.
right?
And those type of locks, and maybe this sounds like an amateur question, but just like, so if you have to add an additional, like an automatic lock then to it, something that's going to be like a switch over. So you're switching out your locks and stuff to communicate that all.
Yep,
So,
the hardware,
Yep.
it's a deadbolt or a handle. And what we see in some of the new construction homes that are putting in maybe like we'll call them fancier front doors, because they're almost architectural,
Sure.
So they'll have hardware on them that's atypical. So we don't put smart locks and things on those, right? So we'll put them on the man door,
Sure.
right? Because there's a security aspect associated with a smart lock, because you can schedule, if you have somebody that comes, whether it be maintenance or a dog walker or a nanny or somebody that comes to the house on a regular basis that you don't want to just give your garage code to, because that's what we all have done in the past. And if I went through my phone and told you how many garage codes I have, we could have a heck of a good day, But with the smart locks, you can schedule. All right, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon to 2. This code works so that the dog walker can come, right? So they can't just randomly come on the weekend and use their code.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
there's a security aspect associated with it. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be on the main door. It just has to be on a door, right?
So I'm interested, and I'm kind of thinking like bigger picture for what your company does. So, I know that you guys do some of the like conference centers, like AV stuff. So tell me the mix between what you do from a residential perspective, but then also on the commercial side. Like, where are you guys involved there, and where does it make sense to do work like that?
So we're probably pretty close to 50-50 at this point.
Okay.
It might be 60% residential. But there's a lot of commercial work. For us, it's kind of in a small business world or a retail or a restaurant type environment. On a small business level, it's a lot of conference rooms.
Okay.
Because video conferencing became extremely important a few years ago, and it is a delicate setup that a lot of people take for granted is a video conferencing system, right? You can't just go buy a camera at your local Staples and clip it on top of the TV in the conference room, right? That's designed for like you one-on-one at your desk.
Right.
And we see it all the time. And it just, does it work? Okay, it works, right? But is it professional? That's not right.
Right.
So what a lot of or most companies don't realize, the most important thing in a conference room is the microphone.
Okay.
Right? Like a camera can see people, and sometimes when people join conferences, or they don't even turn the cameras on, right? But you have to hear them. And if you don't set up or have the correct microphone in a conferencing style setup, it's not going to be an effective room. So we put a lot of focus on the microphones.
Okay.
In conference rooms. And then just connectivity. How do I connect and what do I connect? Is it a laptop I bring in, or is it a computer that lives there, and who's logging in and out? And you kind of have to design them for the room and the users.
Right.
But there is a suite of products you can stay in, and a general concept you have to follow. So the conference rooms have been really big.
Okay.
The COVID time actually gave us a little boost in business. Some people struggled. It actually helped us a little bit.
Okay.
Because we weren't doing too many, and then the world changed, right? And then we do
Everyone's
them all the
working
time.
from home now. So
Working from home.
Yeah, working
Right.
from home. We're small office spaces where everybody comes in,
Yep.
right? You're trying to achieve the same thing, get it all done at one time.
Yep.
So
Yep.
And I think the struggle too is like there's so many different conferencing platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when I log in, like I'll go into a Zoom call and everything works great, and my camera shows up and my audio automatically connects. Then when I go into Teams, it's like, oh, your speakers are different, and you have to switch your speaker, and then your camera's not working, and now I've got the camera on my laptop that's over here, but I've got this curved monitor that I love watching in front of me, that now I'm talking with the side of my head facing the camera because I can't get my other camera to turn on.
Brian's like, I can help you.
No. That's when I call my brother, and he comes and helps you. He's the smart one. But that's no different than the struggles that if people try to set up their own conference rooms have, right? The computer, especially if you use a laptop, it already has a microphone and a camera in it.
Right.
So you connect another microphone and camera to it, it gets confused. It's like, so what do you want me to use? So you shouldn't use laptops in conferencing systems. You use like desktop PCs.
Okay.
Because then it doesn't get confused.
They don't have either of the two.
They don't have either of them. We try to save people from themselves, because we'll put a local computer that lives in the environment of the conferencing system.
Right.
And these businesses will say, well, what if somebody wants to bring their laptop in and connect it? I'm like, I'm just telling you it's going to break, right? Like that has a failure rate, because we have no control over that device that you're connecting to that.
Right.
So you connect that laptop. Now the computer has to decide what microphone and camera it wants to use.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work, then they call us and say, system's broken. The system's not broken. You did what I told you not to do, and you hooked a laptop to it. So like it is not perfect. But we try to minimize failure rates in conference rooms by not using laptops. So I understand your pain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
it's
understand your
painful too.
pain. Yeah.
Yeah, so like from a home perspective, so someone moving into their house, obviously everyone needs a TV hung, right? And they might have 4 or 5 or 6 TVs hung.
Sure.
So obviously you guys do that, and then you have that skill set down pat. It's like super easy for you. It's like a typical job that you guys do.
It's easy. Yep.
Besides like hanging a TV in a house, what do you find that is pretty common? Is it setting up the light switches, setting up all these like extra things, like for someone that's living in an existing home? Because obviously, perfect world, you build a house and it's everything, you have everything integrated. But you get a lot of people that get overwhelmed and say, I don't even know where to start. Like, we need TVs hung, we have all this AV equipment, we don't know what to do with it, how it works. Do you walk someone through like someone else's equipment? Let's just say someone has equipment that they bought at Best Buy and it's in there and it was left.
Yeah.
So how does that look like for a homeowner?
The first conversation that we like to have, and that usually is requested, is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is critical, right? And it's not necessarily your service provider. There's a big difference between your ISP, your internet service provider, whether that be Verizon, Comcast, Consolidated, AT&T, whoever it is, right? There's a big difference between the network equipment that they give you, their router, or what we would put in. We essentially put in enterprise grade systems, access point based systems in homes, because there's so many things that rely on Wi-Fi, right? And the network in general, whether it's hardwired or Wi-Fi. But it's critical because you can't use a lot of the other stuff if the Wi-Fi stinks, right? Your smart TV doesn't work. My kids are trying to do their homework, and my other kids trying to play games, and right? It kills your life. It shuts the life down if you don't have good Wi-Fi. So we don't really have many non-negotiables in our company. We're very easygoing. We'll do whatever you want to do. That is as close to a non-negotiable as we get. And that is to put in a really good wireless network and wired network, because it minimizes our calls, you calling us and saying this isn't working. We will know it's working because we put in something that it works from, right? So that's usually the first conversation we have is.
So is it like a booster or something, or what when you're saying? Essentially.
So an access point is a point of broadcast for a wireless network. So if you wire them back to the router, that's ideal, right? But you can mesh them. So there's a lot of mesh systems out there today.
One talks to the other.
Yeah. You don't want to mesh too many things, because every time you jump a mesh point, you lose 25 to 50% of the signal strength. So you want to minimize your meshes.
Right.
But you put them strategically throughout the house. So whether you mount them on the ceiling or you hide them in corners and plug them into the walls, they are a point of broadcast. So rather than you getting, we'll use Verizon as an example, you getting Verizon, they give you a router, you set it in the middle of the house and hope it covers the house, right? That's a single point of wireless broadcast. With an access point based system, you would put that router somewhere. We usually put it near the rest of the equipment, and then we wire access points to it, and then they are broadcasting from multiple points of the home. So that gives you better coverage. A big misconception in residential internet is if my Wi-Fi stinks, I'm going to call Verizon and get more speed. That doesn't fix your problem, right? You have a coverage problem. If your phone isn't connecting to the internet, it doesn't matter how much speed you have, it's not going to work. So putting in the access points or the mesh network that enhances or broadens the coverage of the internet in the house will fix 99.9% of your problems. The base internet package that a service provider gives you is more than enough for anybody living in any residential environment.
So don't upgrade.
Don't upgrade.
Okay. Just call you.
Call
somebody.
Call
Bryan and Elite.
Call somebody, but don't upgrade. It does you no good. They try to sell you gig internet now, and you could run a a relatively large office building off of gig internet.
So if someone calls and they want you to set up their TV, all their equipment, do you explain to the homeowner as best you can about what the equipment does and how it works and how to get everything? Okay.
Yeah, so we always do a consultation. So I won't send my technicians onto a job unless I've seen it myself. There's two reasons. One, it would create a poor experience if someone called and said, "Can you come hang my TV?" Yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. And then we show up and my technicians are, well, they don't have a mount, and they said you were going to bring the mount, right?
Sure.
So like, I can't hang it here, it doesn't fit. So it creates a bad experience for my employees and the customer.
It's a real world problem.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, the communication breakdown.
Yeah.
So that's why, this might seem like, pretty simple, but these are like everyday real life things. People are closing on a house and you're like, they get overwhelmed. But like, what do I do with all of these wires and all this equipment in the house? And how do I get everything up and running? Who do I call?
Yeah.
So you're that person.
You call, yes, you call us. And we can answer a lot of questions, because you're going to bring something with you, right? It's going to be a TV, it's going to be a speaker, it's going to be a game system, it's going to be something. We can't live without entertainment technology anymore. And and we can to whatever level you want the new technology installed in the new home, I'll help you with it. I'm not going to turn away a potential customer because I didn't think they wanted enough stuff from me, right? Like, we like helping people, so probably to a fault, but we do like helping people. So if you call me, and you're moving into a new home, sometimes I won't even. I'm not a salesman. Like, I'm a solutions person. So I will do whatever you want to do. If you have this old television and you want to use it, I'll tell you the advantages and disadvantages of having that old television. If you want me to hang that tube TV somewhere in the house, I'll hang the tube TV in the house, right? Because in our business, a relationship is more important than a transaction, right? So
That's your referral base right there.
Yeah, we want customers, not clients, right? Or we want clients, not customers. We don't want transactions. We're not chasing dollars. We want to build relationships and sustain that, and then you get me referrals, right? And that's how we've gotten here. So that's if I'm gonna go to somebody's house that just bought it and they have a bunch of stuff, I'm not gonna sell them things, but I will sell them things if they want me to sell them things, and I can answer all their questions related to. Can we hang this here? Is it a good idea? What do I hook it to? Do I get cable? Do I not get cable? There's so many questions, and you could Google them, right? Because it's not like you have a leaky water pipe. You're not going to go be like, how do I fix my leaky water pipe? Or you're going to call a plumber. But in today's world, they're like, oh, my my TV isn't working. Let me Google it, right? Like, why is my TV not working? Oh, I'll just go buy a new one. Well, you don't necessarily. You still need. The problem. Yeah, you still need somebody. Our industry isn't seen as a trade, and that's a big misnomer. That even pre-construction, we aren't viewed as a trade, and we aren't called upon to do things in a low voltage realm. Because everything's wireless, right? Or technology is disposable, or I'll just go buy a new one, right? And that's not always the answer, and sometimes it's not even the right answer. So,
well, you can take the overwhelm out of the process for a lot of people. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I've got a wish list. I'm going to see what you can do here for me. So,
all right, let's do it.
Every night, my son is in the basement. He's playing games. He's got this big 75-inch television that he sits in front of. He's got his headphones on. He's got the side table with drinks and chips and plates.
Things got really good over there.
We need to go over to Jim's house.
Yeah, so the kids, that's what he does. He's got it made. So, but I'm curious because the part where there's a disconnect is when he gets up off of the sofa at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, whenever it is, and he walks up the stairs. I'll come down in the next morning and there's plates there. There's the lights are still on. Is there a way to fix all of that? I know you're not going to clean up the plates for me, but
clean up the plates.
Thinking about experiences, like if that's the case and he's gaming, like, is there a way to turn everything off as he leaves the room? Or, I think you kind of talked earlier about time sensitive.
Yep.
It'd be great if I could shut everything down at a certain time, right? The TV zaps out at midnight, and I know that I don't have to fight with him in the morning to get up.
Right.
And
yeah, to whatever level you want it to go, you could shut the internet off.
Okay.
so he can't game because he's probably streaming the
Yes.
game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so you could target that device in a network and tell it to, stop sending internet signal to this MAC address at this
Okay.
certain time. So that would end his game. You could manually just turn it off from your phone. Like you could pull your phone out and it shows you the state of things in the Savant system.
I'm
So
gonna
you
sleep
could
at that point though. So
Yeah, okay. So that's out. Yeah, so you could program it to just turn off, but then you're like, well, what if he just turns it back on?
right.
And there's a whole nother world that is about to occur we can discuss briefly, and we probably should, is energy management.
Uh-huh.
And so Savant has a whole suite of energy products because they bought GE Electric.
Okay.
And so you could put a smart plug in, and you could program it to just that outlet not have power anymore
Okay.
after a certain time. So then he can't even turn it on
I got you.
because he's lost power.
I think that's your solution right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's no going back.
Now, if we can just figure out how to clean up the plates and cups
Right.
and dishes and bags of chips.
That's
We'd be in
yeah,
business.
We have to start
Elon-
paying him, right? You say, "I'll pay you to bring your stuff up," and he'll
Gets to
listen,
live
right?
in the house. That's the pay that he
I,
gets.
I'm with you,
Rent
but
free.
I'm saying you're trying to figure out a solution. I think you give them that extra motivation, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's generally a technology answer in a control environment for most technology problems. We can control things, whether it's on or off or what it does and when it does it. Because a lot of the things are predetermined, but we also can kind of like get creative and create things that aren't necessarily typical scenarios.
So it sounds like cookie cutter. You guys handle cookie cutter every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But on the design side, like some of the complicated stuff, like you guys, that's where you're knee deep, and that's
Mhm.
really where you thrive. And that business segment is, hey, like let's figure out the crazy stuff, the automation, the
Mhm.
things that you're not thinking right now that we can help you with. Out of the
Yeah.
box stuff. I mean, that's really kind of where you're
Yeah.
good at.
When we do a system design, we call them system designs. Is essentially when we meet a new potential client, whether it be pre or post construction. But a lot of these detailed conversations are pre construction. Is we sit down with them and we really dig into their lifestyle because there is no one system that fits everybody, right? You might be empty nesters building your dream home and it's small, and you might be a young couple that's going to start having a family, or you might be a middle-aged couple that has 4 or 5 kids, right? But all those lifestyles are completely different. So I can't just go in and say I'm going to sell you this, and this,
Right.
because it doesn't fit the needs of everybody, right? So we really sit down in our first discussion and we talk about, how were you living? Like, what does your technology life look like right now? Do you have things? Do you have speakers? Do you have smart devices? Do you know what this is, right? And so we dig into the lifestyle, and then we will get into the plans. Okay, then we'll start talking about the rooms, and then we will ask, what do you want to do in this room, or how do you envision living in this room? And then we'll talk through like options, right? So we may talk through some things they've already had, and then I will tell them things they didn't even know existed, right? And then everything's always an option, right? But we want them to understand the capabilities so they can make educated decisions. So there is no single system like for a person.
Yeah.
There is A, B, C, but there's also X, Y, Z. We just got to figure out, to what level you want to kind of dip your toes into that pond.
Now, do you sell any like the TVs and the brackets? Do you?
We sell everything.
You do all that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are full distribution of everything from wire to televisions to. There's nothing that I could install that I also couldn't sell.
Got it. Do you have a studio or do you have a storefront?
We
or
have
do
an
you anything like that?
office that has a small showroom, so it's a conference room / showroom. We have a little living room set up in there, but we don't have like a big wall of televisions that come pick a TV, right?
Like you're going to Best Buy or something. but
Yeah. It's not like a retail type setup, but we can allow you to understand the differences in some things and to get your hands on the Savant system. Like, what's the remote feel like, and
Right.
what do the keypads on the wall look like, and what's the difference between an in-ceiling speaker and a bookshelf speaker, and what does that sound? Why does
Sure.
it sound differently? So yes, we do have an office that
You sell the equipment too that goes with it.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
a one-stop shop.
one-stop shop. Yep.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I think this has been a great show. If you need any help in this space, definitely reach out. Elite Media Installations. Bryan's your guy. Reach out to him. He'll soon be a Lux 10 member. You'll be able to find him on the Lux site as well as on their website. Reach out to him with any questions or concerns that you have. Thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next show.